Hello, hello. Hey, Rebecca. Hi, Bobette. So if you guys can hear me, let's get the technical stuff out of the way first. Just if somebody will drop in the chat that audio and video are good, and then we'll give people some time to come on in. That would be fantastic. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so we are talking about doctor's appointments and how to have successful doctor's appointments. So I like to give everybody about a minute or two to get into the room. We get a lot of people that just want the replay, so I apologize ahead of time for the space. Just fast forwarded right into the presentation. But I want to share, again, with those of you who might be new to me, that one of the reasons why we are doing these Wednesday webinar events for the general public and also for coaches and practitioners to learn what it really looks like to start getting people back to the basics and stop overwhelming people about what it means to start getting healthy. These webinars are to empower people. They are to give you the independence from conventional and functional medicine, and to give you the skills that you need to tap into your own intuition and instincts about what's best for you. So overall, I can come in here 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and tell you all about all of these things that I've learned over time in my experience. But the number one thing I'm always going to return to is to let you know that I'm only here as an avenue of information, to share this with you guys, to give you, maybe get the wheels turning in your mind about how you could be thinking differently, or if you're a coach or a wellness practitioner, how you can be helping people differently, and how simple this really can be for both the patient/client and the health coach / practitioner. So hello, everybody that's new coming in. Hello, hello. We're going to get started in just a moment. So I'll get the stuff out of the way on the front end and just give you some quick reminders. Let me share my screen here. Let me get all of these pieces out of the way on what we're talking about today. As a reminder, where you can find me. So again, I've got a couple of different places that I'm living right now. One of them is on Seeking and Speaking Your Inner Truth. So if you're interested in being one of those people that's part of a community that is out there, talking about the real stuff that's happening in the world today with current events, vaccines and masks and politics and all that stuff, and you want to come into a censorship-free zone, you can find us here, Seeking and Speaking Your Inner Truth. And then also, as you hear me talk about health coaches, the American Natural Wellness Health Coaches Board here, the ANWCB, you guys, this is the place that I direct my board certified coaches. These are the people that are trained to work with you. So if you are looking for a health coach and you're listening to me talk about how valuable they are to you, this is the place. You'll get all the replay links in the replay. Okay, so all of these links will be in the replay. If you're interested in taking your health journey further and becoming a health coach, the Institute for Functional Health Coaching is the school that I opened. It is based on all of the experience I have as a coach. And then also you can find me on Mighty Networks with this logo right here. Seeking and Speaking and Carmen Hunter Health are on Mighty Network. So that's a new platform. It is censorship free. It is also distraction free. So don't come in there thinking you're going to get all the same stuff you're going to get on Facebook and Instagram, because it is a place where you only come to get the information that you need. And hopefully you're not spending so much time on social media anymore and not spending useless time just scrolling through and getting distracted in your life. Okay. That's what we're trying to do. We got to get back to having real connection, get away from this disconnected stuff that we're all absorbed in, and get back to real relationships with real people. Okay. The other thing I wanted to show you again, if you did not attend part 1 last week, we went over this document right here. It was about an hour and 10-minute webinar, just talking in detail about how you can have a successful doctor's appointment. I got quite a bit of feedback on this. People asking how they can help their parents, how they can help their grandmother, how they can help their spouse or other people in their lives. So just as a reminder, you guys, these are open to the public. It's free. Invite anybody that you feel will get value from these trainings that I'm doing with you guys to teach you how to be more independent. So part 1 is it already went out. The replay went out. So make sure you go out to YouTube and you can click that link in the replay. And this whole webinar is out there with a lot of juicy details about how to have a successful doctor's appointment. Okay, got that out of the way. So today what we're talking about is taking an actual tool, because I believe, let me get rid of some of these distractions back here. I did not open this up appropriately. My apologies. Talking about a way that we can, here we go, take back our power in our health and wellness, right? And get more in control of the things that are ours to own. And that's about, how we eat, how we live, how we move, how we think, and how we show up in the world. But one of the things we absolutely have to have for the toolbox, right? The toolbox that I talk about all the time to help you gain independence, which is, having things like a a blood pressure cuff and a glucometer and a thermometer and, a health coach, if that's your tool, a naturopathic doctor, if that's your tool. These are important things that we can help to quell our fears and help us to see things a little bit differently in regards to our health. The more empowered you are, the more that you have in that toolbox, the more relaxed in your mind, I guess, that you can be when something comes up. Okay. So an example of that, and then we're going to roll into this template, would be the person that might wake up and have a stand up, feeling a little bit dizzy, before they're eating breakfast, right? So many people today will literally be like, something's wrong with me. I was dizzy when I stood up. They book an appointment, they head out to the doctor. The next thing you know, they're nervous, number one, because they're going to the doctor in the first place. Number two, they think something's really wrong with them. They walk in, they get their blood pressure taken. It's elevated because they're nervous. And then they're off to the races mentally, emotionally, and physically. Okay. In their mind, something's wrong. What is going on? I'm more stressed out. The doctor says, why were you dizzy? I don't know. And the next thing you know, you got a shit storm happening. Okay. You've got somebody that is now more anxious than they were before they even got there. Unsure, spending money on things that they shouldn't. And then worried for the next 4 weeks until you get your labs back or whatever they told you to do, until you can get some peace of mind that there's nothing really wrong with you. Well, having a toolbox at home can help with that. You could literally go in, take your blood sugar and be like, oh, I was a little dizzy because my blood sugar is low. Or, oh, look at that. My blood pressure is a little bit low this morning. That could be causing that, right? So having those tools are really important, you guys, in order to avoid going to the doctor. But when we do go to the doctor, we absolutely want to make the most of our time with them because it is so short, right? It is so short. They just don't give us enough time to feel at ease in that space. While I'm presenting, I'd love to hear from you in the chat. Are you a person, first and foremost, that dreads going to the doctor? And if so, has the training before, or is this helpful? I want to know that what I'm bringing to you is helpful. We're getting back to the basics with caring for ourselves. And part of that starts with being accountable. What are you accountable for? You're accountable for the decisions that you make, the thoughts that you think, the way that you show up, and the things that you react to in the world. So let's get organized, right? So we've learned at the last webinar that I did that there are certain times of the day that are better than others to go to the doctor. We learned about what it means to interview a doctor or a doctor's office and what to look for that might give us a red flag that might not be a place for us, right? But we also need to make sure that we have it all together to make it easier for them. Doctors are busy, right? They're limited in their time. We know this. So if they have information about us that's easy to understand and read, it's going to help them to see us as a functional body, not just an individual symptom or an individual body part, but as a whole person. So this really should be called, the whole person template for the doctor, right? So a couple of the things that we get out of the way right off the bat, of course, are, the basics: your name, your age, your weight, your height. But one of the things that is really important here is health conditions or the biggest complaints. Now, I don't like to say, health diagnoses, because diagnosis, as I've said before, and will continue to say till the end of time, are just symptoms of something else. Okay. So if you've been diagnosed with something, as I say here, if you've been diagnosed by a practitioner with something, or maybe you've diagnosed yourself through Dr. Google or whatever it is, just know that whatever that diagnosis is, it has an origin, because ultimately the foundation of health for human beings, when we don't have all the stress and the environmental toxins and the things that are thrown at us that we're eating and putting on our skin and whatnot, we're healthy beings. We come into the world, hopefully, as healthy beings. But then as time goes on, as we're exposed to the stressors of the world and the toxins and whatnot, our body starts to have symptoms of things that happen. But when you go into the doctor's office and you say, I'm having this particular issue, they're going to test you, and they might find something on those labs that shows them that this is the problem, right? Like this is the symptom. But the reason that particular symptom is happening is rarely ever investigated. Okay. All right. So the chat's not moving. So I want to hear from you guys. Is everybody comfortable with going to the doctor? If so, that's fantastic. Then, great. I hope this is helpful, that you get this replay and this template in the email today. But otherwise, I want to know, because I know that this is a real thing. I've worked with clients for the last 12 years, and I know that people are fearful of the doctor. Maybe you have a mother or a father that, or they're elderly and they're like nervous about going because they're going to forget something. It is time to step into that role of being an advocate for those people that we love as well. And this template right here can help you do that also. So if you're a caregiver, If you have elderly parents or children, this document will be helpful for anyone in your life that needs to see a doctor. Okay. So when you're putting these health conditions and complaints down, again, just remember, these are things that someone else has told you or that you've uncovered through the process of digging in, out of fear usually, that you may think is going on. So along with that, I want to just put this in here as a side note. If you're seeing a new doctor for something that someone else diagnosed you with, make sure that you bring those labs with you or that you have access to that portal or a way to tell them and share with them, some of the notes that that particular prior or practitioner had about that. They can glean a lot of great information, but then also they can also avoid doing things that may not need to be done. So we're going to get into labs here in just a moment, and I'm going to share some helpful tips about what that might look like, because many times doctors want to run their own labs and they don't think that the labs you've had done are valuable. All right, ongoing symptoms. Okay, so ongoing symptoms are things that don't go away. So maybe you have a good day one day, but then the next day the same thing comes back. So things that are consistent. And it's important to know the difference between acute and chronic conditions. So acute conditions are, okay, here's a good one. My son playing Frisbee out west last week. He was on a trip for 3 weeks out west, was playing Frisbee, was running to catch the Frisbee, jumped in the air, tripped on his flip-flop and landed on the top of his knee on a rock and had an acute injury that happened right in that moment. Okay. I didn't know about that until he got home. But it was a nasty little injury. Okay, that's an acute thing. That is an acute symptom, an acute problem. A chronic problem is something that has at least 3 months of time behind it. So if you have chronic gut issues, maybe for 3 months you've been dealing with IBS or symptoms or constipation and diarrhea, intermittent, bowel problems, and that's been going on for 3 months or longer. Another one, maybe you've got a rash on your face and it has been there for 3 months or longer. Okay. So things that are chronic have been ongoing and have been there for some time. I also want to say this is a customizable document. If you want to plug something in that's add your own stuff in here that says, for the last week, I've been nauseous in the morning, or for the last week, I've been dealing with some unknown itching, whatever that looks like. But when you talk about ongoing symptoms, it's important to make sure that you put in there anything that is constantly and consistently interrupting your life, making you uncomfortable, something that you just can't get rid of. Okay. All right. So we're going to go through these labs just briefly. I am not going into detail on all of these because that's not my wheelhouse. I'm not a doctor. And I've been bringing doctors to you guys. So there's lots of replays on YouTube with Dr. Alan Hopkins talking about labs. There are, we were on talking about labs a couple of weeks ago for your lab test analyzer with Dr. Greg. So please make time to go back to YouTube and subscribe to the channel and watch some of those replays, you guys. It's really helpful about this part. But I am going to tell you that we are going to be doing an extensive thyroid training where I am going to be going over a guide, and I'm going to do a series, probably maybe July through August. I haven't figured out the schedule yet, but these labs right here, that's what this starts with. Okay. One of the reasons I start with the thyroid is because so very few people actually get this panel done. And one of the things I want to also say is labs should be done, and this is my opinion, okay, just again, my opinion, take what you like and leave the rest behind. Labs should be done at least once a year, okay? So you could be eating as clean as possible and living great, going to bed and doing all the things, all the 7 essentials I've been training on, you do all right. But sometimes, we might miss something, and it's always nice to just have that baseline. So let's just say that someone's been dealing with loss of eyebrow or hair on the eyebrows here, extra weight gain, maybe swelling in the thyroid, and they go to the doctor and they're like, I don't know, these things have been going on, right? The doctor's going to run a TSH, maybe they'll run an iron test, right? Because some of the things, you guys, you have to remember of symptoms that we have, they're the masters of mimicry. They can mimic another condition or another problem, and there's so many of those things that get interwoven. So to break them apart like this and to do full panels that make sense from a functional level are really important. Okay. So the TSH is a thyroid stimulating hormone. It is what they call the gold standard thyroid test, but it tells you nothing about the thyroid. So I can't wait to get into the training on this because I have a special relationship with thyroid disorder since I have one. But one of the things I want the general public to understand out there, those of you who are not in the wellness profession, is that there are a lot of things you're not being told. And there are a lot of labs out there that your insurance will cover that your doctors are not running that will give you a very good idea about what could be going on with you. So the thyroid is one of them. When we talk about running tests in addition to the one test that doctors run for thyroid, we talk about running the tests that say free T4, free T3. I'm going to go into depth on the training, but I want you to know that when they just run the one TSH, all they're doing is they're testing whether or not your pituitary gland is talking to your thyroid. But it doesn't tell you anything about whether the thyroid hormone is in your blood and is free and available for your body and the receptors to use. Okay. So as I move through these trainings and I start talking to those of you who aren't in the wellness profession, you need to just kind of keep your eyes open a little bit and keep your ears open and understand that, when we share this information with you, take notes, take screenshots when you watch the replays. This is to empower you. This is to give you the things that you're not being given by your practitioners and doctors to help you take better care of yourself. Okay. So again, free in front of any labs that you get done just means that it's free and available. It's in the blood. It's able to get into or get to the receptors that they're going to, what the destination is for those receptors. Okay. And so I'm going to skip past this because this is all thyroid that I'm going to be doing training on in depth. But these are general labs that should be done once a year for your baseline. Again, so let's just say that someone says, I started feeling badly, and you go to the doctor and he says, well, I tested your thyroid 6 months ago and it looked like everything looked good. At least you have the baseline done. Okay. All right. Cholesterol. So we talked in depth about cholesterol with Dr. Ellen Hopkins. One of the myths about cholesterol is that as you age, and it goes higher, that you should be put on a statin to control your cholesterol. So newsflash, you have to have healthy cholesterol to have healthy hormones. And as we age, our hormones definitely start to decline. So fasting cholesterol is really important. And as that number, people always say, well, my doctor says my cholesterol is over 200, so I need a statin. Well, here we are. If you're in a certain age bracket, having higher cholesterol is actually anti-inflammatory for your body. It's another thing you're not going to be told because they make money on statins, right? They make money on giving the drugs to you. So when we're doing these types of trainings and I'm sharing this information, it's to help you to maybe be a more critical thinker about what's going on out there in your world, because I can't come into the doctor's office with you. A health coach can, but you go in on your own. So it's important that you take ownership of that critical thinking aspect of yourself and become more in tune to what is it that makes sense to you? What's a red flag and what could be missing here? Okay. So along with fasting cholesterol, we've got pregnenolone, which is the mother of all hormones. And then underneath that, you have to think of hormones as kind of a cascade. We start with cholesterol, pregnenolone, DHEA, and then it cascades out into the other hormones, which follow here. So DHEA, estradiol, progesterone, free testosterone, same concept as the thyroid, and so on. Okay, so with that said, it's man or woman. Okay, man or woman. That everyone should get these. It's not just men that have testosterone. We women have that too. It's not just women that have estrogen and all the female hormones. Men have those too. So when there's an imbalance due to toxins, environmental toxins, or food, or whatever, wherever they're coming from, we can see an imbalance in these hormones, and we can see extra of the feminine or female hormones in men. You've all seen the man boobs, right? And we can see the extra masculine hormones in the women who have facial hair, or maybe they've been diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome and they have higher testosterone. So hormones can really give us a good idea of what's going on in our bodies. And another thing to remember is this: as I've mentioned, as we age, hormones will start to decline. We are born with hormones for a reason. It's not just to have babies. It is to have healthy bones. It is to have healthy blood circulation. It's to have a healthy mind. It's to be able to enjoy life and to put on muscle and all of those things. And they're all important as we get older. So as we get older, it's even more important to put our finger on the pulse of these hormones. Okay, iron is another one that's really important. Now, these are also, I want to say this too. You heard me say earlier that some of these symptoms and things can mimic other things, right? Masters of mimicry. So you can have too much estrogen, too little iron, and a crapped out thyroid, and all the symptoms could be very similar. That's why labs can be really powerful. And that's why I encourage everyone to get some of these panels done once a year, because that way you kind of, again, you can say, well, my iron was good over here, but my thyroid was kind of on the cusp over here, right? So that gives you an idea of where to look and kind of, what action steps you might need to take to move forward. Okay. So iron is another one. They usually just run either one iron saturation or one ferritin, which is your storage iron. When in reality, they all need to be tested, because there's binding proteins and things involved with getting the iron to where it needs to go. There's having too much iron in the blood and not enough active iron that's actually being used in the body. Okay, so just know that one particular test isn't always going to give you the big picture. And that kind of brings us into the B12 and MMA, which is a methylmalonic acid test, which is done by urine. So many years ago, I was feeling really low energy, and I was exercising excessively, and I was like, I'm doing too much, or I'm not eating right. Something's going on here. So those two tests together can actually give a really good, indication of what's going on with your vitamin B. And I'm going to touch on another test, which I probably should have just put under this one, but I'll talk about that in just a moment, which should be another standard test everyone should have. And I'll talk to you about that in just a second. Now, vitamin D is very important. Obviously, I suggest vitamin D testing if you seem to struggle with keeping your vitamin D levels at an optimal level. Maybe you work inside all day long and you don't get outside and expose your arms and legs to the sun without sunscreen, which you should, at least a couple times a week to get that exposure. And again, vitamin D is a hormone. I just want to let you know that this is not just some supplement that you take that doesn't have an effect on you, overall. It is a hormone. Okay, so it is not just a pill. Remember that. But if you're not able to get outside and get exposed to the sun and get healthy vitamin D, it is very important to keep your eye on that, because supplementation is really, really simple, and it's very effective, and is very important. So sometimes twice a year. So once as you're going into winter, which is when most of us are covered up, we're wearing coats and we're not getting that sunshine, right? And then after winter is over, to see, exactly how your supplementation might have gone over the winter time if you live in the cold states, and how you were able to keep those levels up before you move into the summer. Because I'm not a fan of nonstop supplementation. Supplementing means adding to something with which you cannot get from your food or the environment. Okay, it doesn't mean supplementation. The definition of supplementation does not mean take for the rest of your life so you don't have to eat right? Or use for the rest of your life so you don't have to worry about getting out into God's nature, into sun. Okay, supplementing means just filling in the gaps. But today, too many people are depending on supplements, and they're living on them as a way of life instead of doing the basic steps of eating right, getting outside, going to bed earlier. Too much dependency is on supplements, in my opinion. Okay, insulin. So we need to test insulin for resistance. This is another thing. There's people that have high testosterone, polycystic ovarian syndrome, trouble losing weight, tendency toward diabetes. Insulin needs to be kept in check, and I believe that should be tested at least once a year for sure. HbA1c is your sugar. It tells you, how your sugar, what you're eating, how it's working in your body over a period of months. So if you were part of the first couple of webinars that I did, where I talked about the toolbox and I was talking about the glucometer and how you can test your own blood sugar throughout the day to determine how you're dealing with the foods that you're eating, HbA1c actually gives you a broader picture of that. And that's really important to keep that one in check. And you can also get ahead of type 2 diabetes with that as well. So especially if you have a history of diabetes in your family, you've got that genetic component that could be triggered. And remember, genes load the gun, environment pulls the trigger. So you're not necessarily going to get diabetes just because someone in your family does. The way that we live, the way that we think, the way that we behave, and the way that the things that we use in our life are the triggers that can set us up for disease. It's not the genetics. Okay. All right. A CBC and a CMP. I'm going to kind of open the window on both of those here. These are the tests that are run pretty much every time you go to a doctor. If you come in on an emergency, maybe you come in and you're not feeling right, they're gonna be like, let's run some blood. If there isn't an absolute acute situation that occurred, that you can put your finger on, because these things are going to look at a variety of things like anemia, infection, bleeding disorders, cancer. It'll look at your liver and your kidneys, looking for disease there. It can also, I think it's CMP. I always forget in my head, but complete metabolic panel has your sodium and potassium levels as well. So in the summertime, a lot of people don't pay attention to hydration and how important it is to eat enough salt and in their diet and have enough water and replaces electrolytes. A CMP panel can tell you how your adrenals are functioning under that kind of stress as well. So those are two that can really just kind of give you an easy baseline. They're very inexpensive and very easy to do. And most practitioners will do those once a year anyway. Okay, we have MTHFR. And, it's quite a mouthful, and I just butcher it every time. That's why MTHFR is the easiest way for all of us to say it, but it's methylania I can't even do it. Hydrofolate, blah, 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 reductase. Okay. So basically this is, everybody laughs at this when they're like, MTHFR, what does that mean? We automatically think of the cuss word, but it actually is an enzyme. Okay. You can see here that breaks down the amino acid homocysteine. Okay. And so it's a gene that actually codes for the enzyme. It has a potential to mutate, which means it has a little snip, a little glitch, a little, like I don't know. I like to kind of think about a snip out of that gene that makes it ineffective. Okay. So you get one of those genes from your mom and one from your dad. It is very, very, very common and is easily supplemented with, a methylcobalamin vitamin B. So everybody should be getting this test, at least to even find out. You just have to do it one time. It's just a one-time test to find out, if you've got low energy, maybe you haven't been able to get pregnant, maybe you're dealing with some depression. This is so, so important to be able to use your B vitamins properly and your folate properly, that I believe everyone should have this test just one time to see if you are dealing with the genetic mutation. Okay. Because it's too simple to fix, you guys. We're talking about a $10 bottle of vitamin B. Okay. All right. And there are variants on this. So I know there's probably some coaches on here. They're like, no, it's not that easy. Well, we have to start somewhere. And the theme of this whole experience is to, start with the basics and not overwhelm you. These are very basic labs, and they're very simple to do. That's all done by blood and most covered by insurance. Now, when we talk about moving into the additional testing, we're talking about things that may or may not be covered by insurance, that you kind of have to find, these tests on your own. There's a lot of functional medicine doctor practitioners. There are health coaches out there that can order these tests, and sometimes it's warranted. So maybe something comes back on your blood, and you do the things that you're supposed to do to get those things up. Like, just stick with vitamin B for a moment. Let's say that you do everything that they tell you to get the vitamin B up. You're eating vitamin B rich foods. Maybe you're using Shilajit in your morning tea like I do. And you're just not feeling right. Something's still going on where your energy is low. The thyroid test came back normal, but you're still just like, okay. So a couple of the tests that can show what might be going on are, a saliva test. You could do a saliva test or a blood test. A dried urine test to see what condition your adrenal glands are in. Are they, are they struggling? Are you putting out too much cortisol? Do you not have enough cortisol? Right. So one of those tests can be done by blood. It's the ATCH test. So when a doctor says, well, your ATCH test looks great, there's nothing wrong with your cortisol, that's just a Polaroid screenshot of what's going on in that moment with that. So additional testing means stepping outside of conventional thinking, leaning into the functional world that we live in over here as health coaches and wellness practitioners, and really going a little bit deeper for yourself and getting some more answers. So when you do a saliva test, a cortisol test is done by saliva or urine, you're getting an entire day to show you what pattern of what pattern your circadian rhythm is on. What is your circadian pattern? Are you too high in cortisol at night and too low during the day? What's going on there? Very, very helpful. All right. Any stool testing, saliva, urine, hair analysis. So, there's a lot of people out there that say the things that we do as coaches and doctors is too woo-woo. Oh, that you can't test for minerals in your hair. Well, you can. There's so much out there that conventional medicine doesn't tell you and doesn't talk about. And, I truly believe, and I like to believe this, that doctors got into this business because they had a heart for helping. But you know what? They haven't been given the opportunity to do that in so many different ways. The restrictions, the guidelines, all of this stuff, right? So they don't really know how beneficial some of these labs can be. So we're talking about doing a GI map to see, what's going on with the bacteria in your gut. Do you have an overgrowth of bacteria, the good bacteria or the bad bacteria? Do you have enough minerals? Taking a piece of hair and doing a mineral test. So lots of other things can be done to look deeper into your health besides the blood tests. Dutch or dried urine testing for hormones is most effective, but blood can give you, again, a screenshot of what's going on. So working with a health coach that is skilled in understanding all of these things when it's appropriate to do one or the other is very beneficial. All right, so that's that for labs and information about the basics of labs. And then don't forget, you can sign up with Lab Test Analyzer. You get your labs done, you plug them into the analyzer, you hire a health coach, and you walk through how to make those changes. Getting healthy and understanding all of these things does not have to be stressful, and it doesn't have to be hard, and it doesn't have to be scary, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can be very, very simple. We need to stop creating these stories around our health that everything is an emergency. And as you've heard me say in the stress perception webinar, there are very few emergencies. There are a lot of urgencies. We're just seeing all of the urgencies as emergencies, and our body is reacting appropriately. Okay. So changing the way that we perceive stress, which is, the very first of the essentials, is how do we change the way we see stress? Because it affects everything about the rest of the essentials, is very important. So again, you can see that on YouTube. You can go out there and watch that one. Okay, so here's one of the things that I think is so interesting. Of all the doctors that I went to, and I was on my own health journey trying to find out what the heck was wrong with me, why did I have chronic pain, and what was going on, was it nobody ever asked me what I ate. Nobody was asking me what I was eating until I started to learn how important it was and how food affected my body. And I started adding this in. So this template was actually created because I needed a way to get organized. Instead of going in and saying the same thing and telling them that I got these labs done and I did this, I did that, and having to do it all over again, this template was a way for me to go and say, you know what, I've gotten all of these labs done, and here are the reports, or putting the results in here, the date of the test, the result, and any extra information along with it. That way they can see, and they're not ordering unnecessary labs that your insurance probably won't cover again, which is, I ran into that quite a bit. If a doctor tells you that they like to do their own lab testing, one of the things that I ran into that also is I said, well, my insurance isn't going to cover that. So we need to go by the labs that I've brought in and the results that I've brought in and do the best that we can do. And if you don't want to do that, that's okay. I'll find someone else that will. Okay. So stepping into your power here, again, is really important, because when you don't, and you walk away from these appointments and you didn't get your questions answered, and you didn't reach the conclusion of what your next steps were, and walk away feeling confident and comfortable and more at peace, then what you're doing is you're literally getting back on that hamster wheel of waiting 4 weeks to get your labs, to see your doctor, to make decisions. Okay. All right. So food and lifestyle, typical breakfast, typical lunch, typical dinner. So one of the things I found is really interesting with my clients is that they like to hold the information back about the weekends, right? They look great on paper. Oh, Monday I have this for breakfast and lunch and dinner. And I'm like, wow, you're dialed in. What do you need me for? And then it's like, well, okay, what did you have Saturday and Sunday? Oh my gosh, we went to the Waffle House. We had pizza. We went out drinking with our friends. Okay, so you got to be really honest about everything. So when you're doing this type of document, make sure that you share it all. Make sure that you're being honest, because the only person you're going to hurt here is yourself. You're not helping yourself by lying, right? And not disclosing all information. Snacks, water intake, alcohol, recreational drug, exercise, all of these things are important. So, one of the things that I think is really interesting is if you get into an appointment with a doctor and you're having a conversation with them, and they don't know any of this information here, they might start to ask you questions about your exercise. And if they haven't seen this ahead of time, and you'll say, I work out about, 4 days a week. They might be like, well, you need to be working out more than that. That's not enough. You need to lose at least 10 pounds. I would consider adding in da, 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 da. Well, if you've got this thing filled out, you can explain. I work out. This is my routine right now. Anyway, about 3 days a week, about 15 minutes to 20 minutes a day. I lift heavy things. I know my body. This is working for me. The more information that you have in front of you about your own life is going to help you to feel powerful, right? But also not forget anything. Okay. And it's also going to let that doctor or that practitioner that you're working with know that you are interested in being well. And I mentioned this at the last appointment. The person that comes into a doctor's appointment, they're just like, well, I've got these symptoms and I don't feel good. They're going to be the ones when they don't share and they don't ask questions and they don't ask for what they need from that practitioner and that office. They're going to be the ones that walk out with a prescription and then, oh, screw it. And they're going to fill that prescription. They're going to keep eating the way that they do. And they'll go back in a couple of months. They'll get another lab pulled. And then down that rabbit hole of standard American living they go. Okay. The goal is to move away from the standard American thought process. Standard American person thinks fast food, pills will fix it. I don't have to move my body till I have a heart attack. Okay. So we want to avoid the heart attack. We want to be proactive. We want to do the right things for ourselves, because as far as we know, this is what we get when we come into this world. Okay. All right. Important to talk about your work. Well, why is that important? because work affects every one of us when it comes to stress. Stress affects our health. So if you don't tell them that you have a highly stressful corporate job as an attorney, as an example, and then you show up and you've got some dysregulated cortisol levels where you're putting out way too much and you're exhausted, you're not sleeping at night, there's not a correlation there, right? There's no correlation. They're not saying, well, your work is highly stressful, therefore your cortisol is going to be off. They don't know. So then the more labs, more supplements, and no solutions, no getting to the bottom of it. Okay. So the more information we can give them, the better. That's the same thing with sleep. A lot of people say, I sleep through the night. I sleep fantastic and great and all that. My Fitbit tells me this, which please, if you're wearing wearables at night that tell you how you sleep, there cannot be a worse way to dial yourself in to trust your instincts. You don't want that on your arm. You guys, don't be sleeping with that stuff near your face, your head, your arm, in your room at all. Clean your room of all electronic devices. Okay. We've got to get back to trusting ourselves. If you wake up in the morning and you're tired and you don't feel refreshed, like you can just jump out of bed and get the day started, there's something going on. There's a reason that's happening if it keeps happening. And I'm not talking about the late night, the night before, that doesn't rarely happen or whatever. Talking about chronic things that consistently happen. So remember, ongoing symptoms. So I need a drink of water here so I don't start coughing on you guys. Okay. Hobbies and stress, of course. When we talk about stress, and I didn't give any cues, you can, of course, put your own in here if you want. But what these areas are for are just for free writing, stress. What do I experience as stress? So if I were filling this out right now, I would say raising a child, as a single parent, raising a child independently, financially starting over at a late age, and then, some days long work hours or something like that. Something along those lines. But I would absolutely put that down there because it's really important, again, that if you're working with a practitioner that knows the body functionally, head, mind, body, soul, all of it, they'll know how important that is. And they may have some good insight to give to you on, even if it's just a conversation like, hey, you only got 2 years left. It's going to be okay. When you graduate, you're going to have a lot less of that. It's important to have a trusted relationship with the practitioner that you're working with. This is not a business exchange. If your doctor's treating you like a business exchange, it is time to find somebody that is going to work with you and see you as the person that you are. And again, we covered all that in webinar 1 with the how to have a successful doctor's appointment, about that relationship, about making eye contact, about having that connection so that you feel like somebody's got your back and is in partnership with you. So as you notice, probably, what are you doing consistently for fun? I'm repeating the 7 essentials in here, you guys, because having fun is absolutely essential. And us grownups, we are not doing enough of it. Well, I'm going to say that I have mastered that of having more fun in my life now than I've had, even with more stress. Fun is so important. It is so important. It gets us out of that sympathetic fight or flight life that we live in. It allows everything inside of us to relax. It teaches us how to breathe again. It connects us to people. It gets us away from blue light. It just, there's so much that it does, you guys. So please, go back and watch that webinar as well. And look at why I feel like fun is an absolute essential for all human beings to be healthy. Okay, so we're going to talk about supplements and medications here for a moment. And this is really one of my more important sections. And this is why. First and foremost, I have worked with so many people over the years that have taken things that they don't even know why they're taking them. Okay, so let me repeat that. I have seen forms like this because this is what my clients fill out when I work with them, when I want to see what they're doing with their doctors and stuff like that. I have seen people literally doubling up, sometimes tripling up on the same supplements. So maybe they're taking a multivitamin, and then underneath that, and in that multivitamin, they're you guys know what multivitamins look like. There's like 1,000 things in them. I am not a fan of multivitamins. But then you've got iron and B and folic acid, which don't take folic acid ever. It's very unhealthy. Okay. Whatever. And then underneath it, they might be taking iron and B and it. Okay. So first and foremost, waste of money. Okay. First of all, I don't like even taking supplements. I do, but I don't like taking them. And I take honeymoons from them, which is really important to take a break. Right. But you don't need to be spending unnecessary money. And when you take all of those things at one time, you don't really even know which one of those things is working. So it's important that you have that's why people ask, what supplements are you taking and how much when you go to the doctor. So having it all written out is going to be helpful for you also to look at it look at the back of your bottles, read what's in those things. Look at the fillers, and we'll talk about fillers for just a second, because it's equally important as to the value of the supplement that you're taking as to the quality of the fillers that are in the supplement. So a filler is something that's in the capsule or in the tablet, just taking up space. Okay. So you've got an active ingredient. So let's just say you're taking iron. Well, iron is an active ingredient. And along with that, they're going to put things like cellulose or stearic acid or microcrystalline cellulose or silicon dioxide or whatever. Fillers are not always healthy, and most of the time they're not. They're there again just to take up space, to fill the capsule or the tablet, and to make it in the pharmacy or wherever they're making it, and for you to be able to take it. So the less fillers or inactive ingredients, the better, because the liver has to process it all. Remember this. So if you're taking supplements and you're hoping you're getting all this iron and it's filled with all these fillers, your liver's like, okay, well, here's some silicon dioxide. Let's process that first. Here's some cellulose. Oh gosh, let's process that. Stearic acid too. And then it processes that. And then it's like, there's the iron. That's what the body needs. Well, by that time, usually, I mean, you got to think about it, how long the mineral or the supplement stays in the body and how long it takes to get through the process and through the pathways of getting into the cells for your body to use. Okay. So less is more in this situation, and higher quality on your supplements is more as well. Okay. All right. So treatment. Oh, and let me say on medications too. On your medications, whether the practitioner prescribed them to you or someone else did, if you're working with multiple practitioners, hormone doctor, thyroid doctor, general practitioner, whatever, just make sure you're putting everything in there so they can all see what they're prescribing, because it can be, you could get some contamination, contraindications there. If one doctor is naturally inclined and functionally inclined, and they say, SAMe would be really good for you. Let's work on your dopamine. Let's get some SAMe in there and some St. John's wort for your mood. And then you've got another doctor that says, well, I'd like to put you on an antidepressant. And you're like, okay, well, there is a contraindication. This is an example that you shouldn't be taking St. John's wort when you're taking an antidepressant. But if they don't know that, and they don't, they're not going to call each other, hey, I put Carmen on this, and then, oh, well, I put her on this. Well, that's bad. They don't know. It is up to you to take that responsibility to disclose all information about the supplements, the medications, and everything that you're putting into your body, so that your practitioners have an opportunity to be the best doctors that they can be, regardless of how much time they have with you. Is all this making sense to you guys? I don't see a lot of chatting going on, but I just want to make sure that I'm being really clear. When I'm talking, it's very important that this is understandable and that I'm delivering this in a way that's not complicated and that you're not overwhelmed or more stressed out. So, I just want to make sure that I'm meeting your needs here. All right. So treatment modalities can be anything conventional, physical therapy, or functional, like massage, kinesiology, any of the things, right? Well, again, treatments I have been tested for or tried. I had everything known to man. I mean, I was doing everything known to man when I was trying to figure out why I was having chronic pain. So you can only imagine how long my list of supplements and modalities were. So the reason why this is important is because we don't want someone saying, well, you really need to go and try, physical therapy, when you're like, well, actually right here, I did do physical therapy from here to here. I had no relief at all. And the physical therapist said it wasn't this, right? You can verbalize that to someone, but they'll be like, well, when did you go? And you're like, oh gosh, I don't remember the date. But if you can say, on this date, this is the result, this is what we found, they're going to be less inclined to say, well, I think you should try it again anyway. What you want to do is make sure that you are filtering out all of the things that you've done that didn't work, so that the space can be opened for that practitioner you're working with to be able to look at it and go, oh, I see here that you haven't done active release technique yet for that pain. So let me go ahead and make a recommendation. I'll tell you a little bit about it. I can make a recommendation to a practitioner. You let me know if that's something that resonates with you. Okay. A lot better than having to go through the list. Well, I did that. Right. So, a lot of times, this is what I tell people I'm working with. You are either a standard American person many of the times, or an overwhelmed symptom chaser. That's who we're working with. So the less overwhelmed that we can put out there as health coaches and practitioners, and the less overwhelmed that you feel, out there in the general public trying to get well, the faster we're going to get well, and the more relaxed we're going to be around this. And again, the goal of this is to underwhelm you. So the last page of this document is goals for this visit, goals for my future health. So, perhaps the goals for the visit should be at the top, but again, you can customize this. But it's important for the doctor to know, what are you trying to accomplish during this visit? Okay, we have 15 minutes together. I have 5 pages of labs, and then I have this symptom going on. I know we have a limited amount of time, so I would like to look at these things and talk about this, and let's keep our eye on the time, right? So creating efficiency within your appointment is very important, okay? Goals for your future health, very different from what the visit is about. The visit is to start getting to the root of what happened in the first place. The goals for your future health would be to be pain-free, to be sleeping better, to have hormonal balance, to have to only come in once a year when necessary, whatever that looks like. But the goals for your future health are to become a fully integrated and optimized person in your body, in your mind, and just in your health in general. So if a doctor sees that you are organized like this, okay, and that you have goals and aspirations for yourself, they're going to take you more seriously. If you're an advocate for somebody, if you are advocating for a parent or a friend or a child or whatever, the doctor is going to be able to be like, okay, this person's really on top of it. I want to help them because they're willing to be here to advocate for this person. So my disclaimer on doctors is this, and again, going back to the successful doctor's appointment, that we absolutely need them. We absolutely need them. There's a place for everyone, but it should be a partnership, and it should not be, a power trip for that physician that you're working with. If they are there telling you how you're going to be moving forward, and I want you back in 4 weeks, and no, I'm not going to give you your lab results till you get here, and I need you to take this supplement, and you need to get this done, that is not a partnership. A partnership is communication and conversation. A partnership is an understanding between the two of you. The common goal is to not have to come in to the doctor, and that you are in charge of yourself, and that you have the desire to get well. So that's really the goal in providing you guys. I think that's the last thing. Yeah. Providing you guys with the training about a doctor's appointment, how to have a successful doctor's appointment, how to make the most of your time with them, how to step into your power and become more independent. So I'm going to go to the chat in a moment and see if there's anything there. If you have any questions about anything at all, drop it in the Q&A right now. But as a reminder, the replay will go out. You should have gotten the, hold on a moment. This should have come last week as a PDF attachment. So you're able to download that and use that as your own tool and your own guide. So that was there. Then we're going to send you this template in a Word document so that you can take all this stuff out and create the document that you need to go out to your doctor and have a successful appointment. Now, when we talked last week, I said, provide your own template or the one that I provided to you. So the one question that I would ask when you're looking for a new doctor, or maybe you're getting organized, is to call your doctor's office and say, I'd really like to send ahead some information about where I am with my health today. I've got a form I think is going to be really helpful and is going to make our appointment more efficient. Would you ask Dr. Jones or whoever your doctor is to take a look at that before I come in, or at least just put it in my chart, and then bring your own copy. In fact, bring 2, because even if you make that effort, you're going to have the rare person that's going to do it for you. At least you have one for their files, and then you have one that you can look at while you're going through that appointment. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. So I'm like, dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure that you got everything in order when you go into your appointment. Okay, let me see what's going on in the chat here. Okay, thank you for all of the audio works and all of that good stuff. And Margaret, yes, she's talking about using the client. So she says her clients find it empowering. They feel more confident going to their appointment because they have a plan and aren't worried about forgetting something. And and that's such an important thing, Margaret. It's so important that, that we point that out, is that even if, we have a great memory and we have the best of intentions, we can go into our appointment and be like, oh my gosh, they might be rushing you, or you go in and you're like, oh my gosh, there was one thing I wanted to ask, I forgot, or one lab that I was missing that I needed. So, we can all be forgetful when we're under pressure, and that includes the doctor too. So this really can help a doctor to stay organized with you as well. I've got a doctor I'm working with right now, and on my hormones, and she's helping with my hormones and dosing of hormones. And I've, bless her heart, because I love her, but I've told her 4 times, like, I had a hysterectomy. I have to keep telling her because she keeps telling me things that relate to people who don't. So I ended up, telling her like, I'm just going to plug this like right here in bold letters so that we can just avoid this conversation in the future. Right. So doctors are busy. They have best intentions most of the time, but they're busy too, you guys. So it's helpful for them as well. Babette says, I rarely go to a doctor. I'm in Ecuador. When I lived in Seattle, I went to 3 functional MDs who were friends and I trusted. That's great. Yes. Okay. Let's see here. Thank you, Jane, for that. Valuable tool. My GP, Josie says, my GP of 20 years just retired. Any suggestions for looking within my group for a new doctor? Yep. I'm going to share that with you guys in a minute. I'm going to open up my screen and show you a way that you can maybe do some research to find a doctor. Okay. So let me just go through the chat and then I'll share that with you. I also have a homeopathic chiro, but he got the COVID shot. No, and I'm not sure if I should continue to see him. Not sure how you can call yourself homeopathic and get the shot. I'm with you. And no, I would not continue to see him. That's my personal experience. Absolutely not. And in time, you may find that, you're going to have to be finding a new doctor anyway, because we all know that, well, most of us know how dangerous that is. Okay. So definitely find another chiropractor. There's so many good ones out there, Josie, and I'm sorry to hear that. It's never fun to have to start over. But let me give you a little tip there as well. Get all your files from every doctor that you leave. You guys get your files, get copies of it. Those are your files. It's your blood. You paid for it. You have a right to it. Get copies or have them drop it in your portal and then make your own copies and have hard copies on hand as well. Okay. Let's see here. Yes. And Margaret, you're right. When you take control of your health, you have less need for a physician, 100%. I don't even have a doctor yet still. And my son doesn't either. So here we are. Yeah. How to have fun. Yeah, that me too, Josie. I enjoyed teaching these things. This is what I like to do. This is part of what I do for fun too. But I was surprised at the feedback that I got that people said I didn't realize I'd forgotten how to have fun. I didn't realize I wasn't having fun was an email that I received. So I'm really glad you enjoyed that. That's the goal, is just to keep opening your eyes and showing you things that you may not be able to see on your own, right? Thank you, Margaret, for that compliment that I'm thorough and clear. Good. Thank you for that. Okay. Never got the replay and temps from last week and registered, couldn't find the live. Okay. Where can I find part 1? So in my replay that'll go out for today, or you can go to YouTube and find it. You know what? Let me do this real quick. MJGFSUG. I don't know who that is, and thank you for the compliment, but I'll pull it up and then I'll share my screen because I want to show you guys about 2 things. Where to find the doctor. I'm going to share that with you. And then I want to also share this. Hold on a moment. And I hope it doesn't start playing something because YouTube is famous for that. It starts to play. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm going to grab my link here and share it with you guys. Hold on. And I'm going to put it in the chat. I'll make sure it's all panelists and attendees as well. So here we go. All right. So this is the YouTube. This is just a general link for the YouTube channel. So just go ahead and click that. And hopefully I think it'll take you right into the studio. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, you guys. Hold on a minute. I should have had this ready. Maybe I'll just drop my channel in. Let me do that instead. Here, grab this one instead. This will be easier. And that'll take you to the channel and the playlist, and the 7 Essential series is all in there. So grab that second YouTube channel. That'll take you right to the home page, and let me share this with you guys. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so here's the YouTube channel. Let me move the chat. And if you go underneath there, you're going to see the videos, the playlists, Dr. Allen. So there's lots of great information under here, the videos and playlists. You can navigate that and customize that for yourself. Not all of these are public, but the 7 Essential series is right down here. And it's all, it should be in order. Well, it's in order of how you play it, but starting with stress, whole food, and so on. So move through those and take a look at the replays. And if you need the template, you're going to send an email to support@instituteforfunctionalhealthcoaching.com and then be specific and say, please send me the successful doctor's appointment template from part 1. And that way the team can go ahead and just shoot that right over to you. All right, so I want to share this as well. So those of you looking for a health coach, our registry, we've got board certified health coaches right here. We share this link in the replays. All you have to do is put in a name, put in not the first name, but the city, the county, the zip code. You can just read here, different ways to search to find a health coach to work with that's board certified. You can also go to holistichealthlink.com. So I want to show you that as well. This is another directory where you can find someone. I'm going to share my lovely Shannon. She's one of my team members and graduates, and a highly skilled, no, not that one. A highly skilled coach as well. Hang on, so I can show you what to expect. I don't know why that keeps going. There we go. Okay, so I want to just take it. I want to show you what you can expect to see when you're looking for a coach, and to help you do a little bit more, a better navigation. Okay, so you're going to see a bio here. Then you're going to see underneath there how to contact them, you know, what their credentials are, you know, are they licensed with GMA and all of that good stuff, and what they specialize in. So if you want something or someone very specific and you want to search either one of those, this is where you're going to find more specific information, but the registry is going to take you out and help you to find out who's in your area. Now, don't get married to the idea you have to have a local coach, okay? Because coaches are working remotely all over the world. So please don't get stuck that if you don't have someone in your area, that you're not out of luck for a coach, because we, you know, health coaches, we work everywhere. We're all over the place. Okay. All right. So, oh, there's Dr. Al. Isn't that interesting? He's a featured member, and I just posted my interview with him yesterday. So this is re-findhealth.com. So let me take that and copy it, and I'm going to drop it in your chat. Hold on a moment for you. And if you're looking for, no, not there. If you're looking for a functional medicine practitioner, yeah, and we've got remote coaches on here right now for sure. Yeah, let me put the support at Institute for Functional Health Coaching, and that's in our replays anyway. All of this, I'm sorry, I can't type under pressure. Functionalhealthcoaching.com. I didn't think about that very deeply when I named the school, did I? Okay, there's that. All right. Has there been a lot of activity on the Health Coach Finder? I would reach out to Holistic Health Coach and Nicole Kimmel at Holistic Health Link and ANWCB, and ask her what the latest activity has been. She's the one that monitors that. I'm just the one that shares the information. So if you're looking for a practitioner, you can literally go in here and you can choose, you know, what you're looking for, what professional. I don't know why the drop down is not working, but I could have my, I might have a block on this page for some reason because I'm on Firefox. Anyway, you can do your own searching. So click on that and then put your city in and then do your search, right? And when you do that, you're also going to find that people will have on there, like, even though Dr. Al is in Bluffton, North Carolina, he's also a remote doctor, a remote periodontist and holistic dental practitioner. So he does remote consultations as well. Okay. So don't be turned off just because someone's not in your general area. Again, telemedicine has become a whole lot more accepted and a whole lot more available. So don't discount that. And, you know, I want to give a little bit of an opinion about what it looks like to have a doctor as well. You know, I've always had the OBGYN. I've always had the general practitioner, you know, who was a functional practitioner, a nurse practitioner in my office. And by the way, nurse practitioners are just qualified to help you as doctors. So please don't discount them as well. When they're working under a functional medicine doctor, they can be just as skilled. I never even saw the doctor that ran the clinic that I went to in over 10 years. He lived in my neighborhood. I never met him in person until we both went to an event in California that I just saw as a nurse practitioner, and she was great. So just keep that in mind. When, you know, let's not get stuck on it has to be the MD. But I had all of those things, and then I moved to this new town, and I realized, you know, I can order my own labs. I can interpret my own labs, and even if you're, you know, out there in the world, you can hire a health coach and you can use Lab Test Analyzer. And you don't even need a doctor for either one of those things. You can get your own labs without a doctor. You can read your own labs without a doctor. But make sure that you have somebody in mind in case you have, you know, maybe you want to do an annual, I don't know, an OBGYN exam, or maybe you're trying to get pregnant, or maybe, you know, your hormones are in the toilet and you want to find someone local to work with. Okay. But it's not absolutely necessary. Even, you know, going to urgent care can be something if you have a sore throat or you have an acute thing that pops up. So more and more people are leaning on themselves and they're using other means of getting well. And that's health coaches, practitioners, doctors online, things like that. Okay. So again, you know, let's step outside the box on what we think healthcare is all about, because really what is happening out in the world today is disease care. You're walking in with symptoms or diagnoses. They're giving you a diagnosis or a prescription, or, you know, telling you that this is wrong with you, but no one's getting into the root of what's happening. So that is why it's so important. And I will say this, you know, it is so important that we all are vulnerable enough and open-minded enough to think that even if we're a health coach, that we still need people in our toolbox to help us. Okay. So I have a hormone doctor online that I work with. She's somebody that I lean on for other things with my health as well. She looks at the blind spots that I can't see. And it's important that we all are able to ask for that support and that help as we need it. So I will say this, I've done an infographic and information about, when you compare going to a doctor and using a health coach, you guys, there's really no comparison. If you don't have something that requires a doctor's care, and you can determine whether or not that's you or not, but you have things that you want to improve for your health, you are literally getting 10,000 times the value by having a partner in your care that can help you to look at the things that you can't see, take the time with you that you need to take to really dig to the bottom of your problems. So, I'm on a mission to get health coaches in front of people and to let you know the value that they have, because I've been a health coach for over 11 years now. I've worked with thousands of clients, and every single client that I've ever worked with that has found success in some form or fashion has said, I wish I found you before I found a doctor. And I hear that with my coaching school as well. So if you're a coach and you want to learn about becoming getting what you need for your business, I have a coaching school for that. I try to cover all the topics for everybody, clients, coaches, education. We all need to be starting to work a little bit more cohesively in a simpler way that is less overwhelming, because what that's going to do is going to take our power back to where it belongs. And that is with the connection between us and the people we're working with, or the connection between you and the coach that you hire, and the connection between you and your family as they come along with you on this, right? So stop giving your power away to conventional medicine. They don't care about us. I'm not saying the doctors don't care, but the government has their finger in the pot on conventional medicine, and they're going to do anything they can to make money on you. And that's statins for cholesterol, and that's metformin for type 2 diabetes when you only need to change your food. Okay. Let's use our thinker here. Let's get some critical thinking skills in place. Let's think about what it would feel like to feel more empowered. Have that power toolbox of supplies. Go back and watch the YouTube video on that one, and start getting yourself in a position of peace and proactivity. Okay. Because what's coming down the pipeline right now, as we are in June 30th of 2021, the new variant, it's just another word. It's not anything new. It's not anything to be afraid of, but that's what's coming, is they're trying to scare you into believing that you got to run to the doctor and you got to take all of these things. And that's the only way you're going to be safe. And I'm here to tell you that you have everything that you need. We're giving you all of this. Okay. I'm giving you all of this information so that you can be more proactive in your life, and that you can feel more peace and feel less overwhelmed. Okay. And for the coaches and the practitioners out there that are waiting for you to work with them, all I can tell you is they're going to be some of the smartest people you will ever meet. And we do not leave any stone unturned. I promise you, we are here to help. So if you found this helpful, you guys, please go out to the YouTube channel and subscribe. We're trying to get as many views as we can by a certain time, because something about YouTube's algorithms that came through is requiring specific views. So the more live watching hours I can get on the views, that would be great. That'd be very helpful for me. And then keep your eyes open, because I'm working on the calendar for July, August. And I'm trying to determine whether or not I'm going to do thyroid training, or I've got a couple other things coming up. But I've also got a guest on trauma that's going to be coming in probably July, if I can fit her in. It's going to be really beneficial to what could be going on with us physically and mentally that's coming from a place of traumatic experience. And it'll be somebody different besides KK, even though I could talk to her for days because she's fantastic to give her time to us. This person's coming in from a different perspective. So keep your eyes open for that as well. Go to carmenhunterhealth.com under the events tab and just keep an eye on what we've got coming up. And as always, check us out, what we have to offer. If you're a coach, go to carmenhunterhealth.com and go to the links for board certified coaches to find somebody to work with you. Other than that, have a great rest of the week, everybody. And thanks for coming in, and thanks for sharing, and thanks for being here. Have a great day.